If I were to ask you if you prefer a relationship where someone breadcrumbs you versus someone that is fulfilling you, it would be pretty obvious which one you would pick. No question, right? But unfortunately, we often pick the person that breadcrumbs us. We often pick the relationship that is not fulfilling to us in the ways that we need, want, and desire, and ultimately deserve, because we are living in this illusion of potentiality instead of focusing on what is actually being shown to us. We can see it, we can smell it, we can taste it, we can hear it, we can feel the potential within them. Like we were personally there when God, universe, source gave it to them. So we cling, we hope, we invest, we let our ego convince us that we can change them, that we can mold them, that we can love them into the person that they have the potential to be. And when we get those little glimpses into their potential, when they are in complete alignment with their higher selves, and when they are fully tapped into their divinity, or let's keep it real, when they want to keep us in a state of confusion that makes it harder for us to leave. It's like a hit of the sweetest drug you will ever have, and it keeps us hooked and wanting for more. But those glimpses are like little breadcrumbs thrown to us here and there, and we lap them up because we're starving for connection, right? So much so that we're trying to sustain something, a relationship that requires more nourishment than those little breadcrumbs can actually provide us. And many times they are given to us less and less the more that we hang on. So let's talk about something that doesn't get named very often: how choosing to walk away from someone you love, someone you know is part of your purpose, can feel like such a wrong choice at first. It feels like giving up. It feels like you're not fighting hard enough. It feels like your love isn't strong enough. But eventually, your body stops being subtle about it, and it starts screaming at you to walk away. Sometimes that is through stress and illness, and your body is not begging you to leave because your heart stopped caring. It is begging you to walk away because it is finally time for you to choose you and peace over potential. So, when we talk about potential, we are talking about who they could be versus who they actually are in this present moment. And I'm going to be really honest with you that sometimes who they could be looks so damn good. And it can be so tempting to want to live in that glow of that potential, to plan for the future from that potential, to set expectations for them and the relationship from that potential, which, by the way, is a whole other trap of the illusion of potential that I can dive deeper into if you're interested. But while there is absolutely nothing wrong with seeing, interacting, and planning with that potentiality in mind, we also have to be very aware of what is actually being shown to us in present time. Not only what their words say, but the whole picture of what their actions, inactions, patterns, and behaviors present to us. You have to be brutally honest and ask those hard questions that you have been avoiding for fear of the answers. Like, am I doubling down on investing in something that is already depleting me? Am I depending on me to get or to do the work for them to get them where they say they need to be or where I think that they need to be? And if nothing changes, if they never change, can I live with who they are in this present moment? And often, when we are brave enough to ask those questions, we come to the conclusion that walking away, or at the bare minimum, adjusting our effort to reflect theirs. Walking away is the most loving thing that we find we can do, not just for ourselves, but for them. It's one of those pivot phase moments where you're making a clear decision that aligns with your truth about whether to end or shift a relationship and whether or not you are willing to disappoint and release others to honor yourself. And on the surface, this can look like giving up, like you're abandoning love, like failing to believe hard enough in something you truly desire. But what's actually happening is so much more sacred, loving, and far more honest because you are choosing yourself over us. You are choosing peace over remaining in a connection with someone who does not have the willingness and the capacity, because both are vitally important, to heal, grow, and evolve with you. And that choice can feel so disorienting when your body knows the truth long before your mind is ready to accept it. You start doubting yourself. You are second guessing what you feel. You're telling yourself that maybe your love is just strong enough, that if you hold on a little longer, if you love them a little harder, they'll finally be able to rise to meet you where you are. Because love conquers all, right? And as you've seen those little glimpses of their potential, so you know it's a possibility, your mind gets stuck in rationalizing mode because you truly want to understand. You want to show up for them in the ways that they may have never experienced in your life. But what about the exhaustion you feel after trying to have a simple conversation about the changes that they say that they want to make? What about the defensiveness you have to endure when you hold them accountable? What about the deflection and the Uno reverse, nothing I ever do is good enough card that gets thrown in your face anytime you remind them of the 2 month goals that they said they wanted to accomplish 2 years ago? And most important, your body. What about your body that is screaming at you for your mind to comprehend that it's being starved of the love, consistency, and the safety that it deserves? Often our mind will try to negate their actions by turning it inward on ourselves, while also negotiating with our body that it's not that bad, that I was just being a little too preachy. I could have said that a little nicer or softened the blow. I was being oversensitive about little things. But our body is telling a completely different story. That is the point where sitting in the sacred pause is so vital. It is in that stillness that we can allow the discomfort within our body to speak its truth and build the trust that we can allow it to guide us. So this may ruffle a little or quite a few feathers. But on our journey to becoming her and being her, stepping into the essence of her, there are some hard truths we need to hear. And one of those hard truths, when it comes to being blinded by potential, is when they are actively showing us who they are choosing to be. We may think that it's our heart that is holding on because our love is just that strong. But in reality, it's our ego. It is our ego that is the part that wants to believe that we can love someone into becoming who they are actively choosing not to be. The need to prove we can love them into change, to fix what they often choose to sabotage over and over again. Because real love breeds wholeness, even if that means you're not together, even if that means walking away so they can do their own work. And trust me, it was very hard for me to come to this truth. I did not want to wake up to it. I wanted to believe that wholeheartedly I could love him enough, pour into him enough, cheer him on enough, silence my needs enough, and often soften the hurt that he caused me enough to override the shame and insecurities he battled with, yet had no willingness to actually confront. And honestly, why would he when I was so willing to do the emotional labor and regulation for him by suppressing my needs, by allowing him to cross boundaries, because I wanted him to know I understood his wounds. And in many ways, I enabled him to continue doing exactly what he was doing, even though it hurt me because my eyes were so focused on who he could be instead of who he was actively showing me who he was choosing to be. Another truth we need to realize is that we are holistic beings and we need fulfillment in every facet of ourselves. That means soul, body, heart, mind. And without all four being nourished, we simply cannot be in a grounded, balanced, harmonious connection with someone. It may be a connection, but it won't have depth. It won't have intimacy. It won't have vulnerability and that safety that you know you deserve. In my own personal experience with overlooking reality for potential, I reached this point where I started to realize that the breadcrumbs of potential were no longer satisfying my soul's hunger for real connectedness. Without that reciprocity, the safety, the consistency, and trust, I wasn't being loved as I needed or desired. And I was just surviving in this dynamic where he didn't even allow me to love him in the ways that he truly wanted to be loved. And it was like trying to quench my hunger by downing endless amounts of water. I mean, could it keep me alive a little longer? Maybe, but it couldn't nourish me ever. Living in that illusion of potential might have dulled the ache just a little longer, but it can never give me that fulfillment that my soul demanded, the stability that my body needed, the intimacy and vulnerability that my heart craved, and the peace of mind it required. I also came to the understanding of something that changed everything for me. that there had to be both willingness and capacity. Neither can survive without the other. For a long time, I believed that if someone just had the willingness to change, that was enough. But willingness without capacity keeps you waiting in hope. It keeps you investing in potential instead of reality. Because without their capacity to hold the love you give to them, to take accountability when it actually counts, to acknowledge that they have triggers, or to recognize the patterns and behaviors they engage in, they will collapse under the weight of your love. They will sabotage the connection. And capacity without willingness feels like a freaking slap in the face. It feels like betrayal, because knowing how to show up and choosing not to is like making a mockery of the connection that they claim that they want. Along this journey, there are those that are going to try to convince you that choosing peace over connection is you not being 10 toes down, is not you being a ride or die. But what they fail to comprehend is that love should never, ever be a struggle. Whoever came up with the term struggle love, I so wish that they would have never put those two words together, because it gives people the idea that it's okay to be miserable in a relationship or a connection where, or with someone that you love. Love is not easy. And to say that it is would be a complete lie. But it should be ease filled, grounded, harmonious, and a peaceful sanctuary from the rest of the world that tries to convince you otherwise. And if your relationship doesn't have that, then it's time to ask those hard questions that you just might not be ready to hear the answers to. But if you are, and you find that the most loving thing that you can do is walk away, that the most aligned thing you can do is leave the situation for them, for the reclamation of the peace that is your birthright. I want you to know that the peace you deserve is not failure. Even if that peace means making choices that seemingly puts you on a path that moves you further away from what you once desired and that you were afraid to lose. In fact, it's quite the opposite, really, because it's what happens when your body, your heart, your mind, and your soul are no longer in constant conflict and negotiation with reality.